My name is Claire, and I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I wanted Patricia to love me. I genuinely, truly, with everything I had as a 26-year-old woman who had just married her only son, I wanted her to love me. I brought her flowers on her birthday. I learned her mother's recipes. I showed up to every family function with a dish I'd spent all Saturday on and a smile I'd practiced in the rearview mirror. None of it mattered, because Patricia had already decided what kind of woman I was before I ever walked through her front door, and she was willing to burn my marriage to the ground to prove herself right. I met David at a wedding in Nashville. I was there as a +1. My college roommate was marrying a guy from Vanderbilt, and she needed someone to keep her from spiraling during the cocktail hour. David was a groomsman. He walked up to me during the reception, pointed at my plate, and said, "You're the only person here who went back for the mac and cheese twice, and I respect that more than you know." That was David. Not smooth, not charming in the way that makes you suspicious, just honest and hungry. The two things I have always found most attractive in a person. We dated for 2 years. He proposed at the same restaurant where we'd had our first real date, a little Italian place in East Nashville called Margot, the kind of spot where the menu changes every night and the wine list is written on a chalkboard. When I said yes, the table next to us cheered. Strangers! That's the kind of evening it was. His family was another story. I met them at a 4th of July barbecue 6 months into dating. David had prepared me. "My mom can be a lot," he said. "She's protective. Just give her time." I gave her time. I gave her years. I gave her a wedding where I let her pick the florist and the seating chart and the signature cocktail, because I thought if I gave her enough control, she'd eventually trust me. Lord knows I gave. But Patricia didn't want control of the wedding. She wanted control of David. And I was the obstacle. The first sign was small. The kind of thing you dismiss because dismissing it is easier than confronting what it means. About 8 months into our marriage, David's sister Angela stopped returning my texts. We'd been close, or I thought we were. Lunch every other Wednesday. She'd helped me shop for my wedding dress. And then, suddenly, nothing. One-word answers, canceled plans, a birthday card for David that arrived addressed only to him, not to both of us, for the first time since we'd been married. The second sign, David's Aunt Karen, who I'd always gotten along with at holidays, pulled me aside at a family cookout and said, "Claire, I just want you to know, whatever's going on, I'm not judging you." I asked her what she meant. She looked at me like I was lying, like I was playing dumb when we both knew what was happening. And then she walked away. The third sign, David's cousin Marcus, who I'd met maybe twice, sent me a Facebook message that said, "If you're unhappy, you should just leave. Don't do this to him." I didn't respond. I didn't understand what he was talking about, but I took a screenshot. That's who I am. I keep receipts, even when I don't know why I'm keeping them. The thing about a long con is that it doesn't come apart all at once. It happens in hairline fractures, moments so small you dismiss each one individually, until you can't, until the fractures are the only thing you can see. Thanksgiving was at Patricia's house that year. She hosted every year. A massive spread in her Brentwood home, the kind of house that looks like it came out of a Southern Living magazine and smells like someone's been cooking since Tuesday. 17 people, turkey, ham, 3 kinds of dressing, sweet potato casserole with the pecans on top the way David's grandmother made it before she passed. I had spent the morning making a corn pudding from my own grandmother's recipe. I was proud of it. It was the one dish I brought every year, the one thing on that table that came from my side of the family. I set it down next to the sweet potatoes, and I took my seat next to David. And that's when Angela said it. We were passing plates. Everyone was laughing about something. Uncle Ray had told a joke I didn't catch the beginning of. And Angela, sitting across from me, looked at David and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "So, David, are you and Claire still working through everything, or have you finally decided what you're going to do?" The table went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where someone changes the subject. The kind of quiet where you can hear the clock on the mantel and the ice settling in the tea glasses and your own heart beating in your ears. I looked at David. David looked at his plate. I looked at Angela. Angela looked at Patricia. And Patricia looked at me with the smallest smile I have ever seen on another human being. A smile that said, "I did this, and you can't stop me." That smile. I will take that smile to my grave. Not because it hurt, because it was the moment I stopped wanting her to love me and started wanting her to regret ever underestimating me. I set down my fork, and I said, very quietly, I have learned that quiet is a weapon, and I was about to use it. I said, "Angela, what exactly are you talking about?" She looked at Patricia again. Patricia gave a tiny nod, like she was giving permission, like she owned the narrative. And Angela said, "Well, Mom told us about the affair." The affair. I want you to understand, I had never cheated on David, not once. Not emotionally, not physically, not in any way that the word affair could be stretched to cover. I had never so much as had a friendship David didn't know about. I was the kind of wife who leaves her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter because there's nothing on it she wouldn't show her husband. I turned to David. He was still looking at his plate. I said, "David, did you know about this?" He said, "My mom told me a few months ago. She said she had proof. I didn't believe her at first, but she kept bringing things up. And then my whole family started asking me if I was okay, and I didn't know what to think." He didn't know what to think. The man I had married, the man I had brought corn pudding for, the man who had proposed to me at Margot with strangers cheering at the next table, did not know what to think about whether I was cheating on him because his mother, who had never once asked me a direct question about my character in 5 years, told him she had proof. Now here is the part of the story where I need you to understand something about me. I am not a woman who cries at dinner tables. I am a woman who builds cases. My daddy was a contractor in Birmingham. He taught me that when a structure is compromised, you don't stand in it and weep. You find the beam that's failing, you expose it, and then you decide whether to repair or demolish. I stood up. I walked to the hallway where I'd left my purse. I came back with my phone, and I sat down at a table full of people who had spent 6 months believing I was a liar, a cheater, a woman who had broken her husband's heart while she was supposedly busy with an affair that existed only in Patricia's imagination. I opened my phone, and I said, "Patricia, you told this family you had proof I was having an affair. I'd like you to present it. Right now, in front of everyone. What is your proof?" She didn't expect that. She thought I would cry. She thought I would run out of the room. She thought I would do what good Southern women are supposed to do when they're accused of something: fall apart quietly and disappear. She said, "I don't need to present anything. Everyone knows." She gestured around the table. "The family has discussed it. We've all been trying to help David through this difficult time." I said, "No. You've been trying to destroy my marriage, and you almost succeeded. But you made one mistake, Patricia. You did this at Thanksgiving dinner, in front of 17 people, which means you gave me an audience." And then I held up my phone. Here is what Patricia did not know. For 3 months, ever since the birthday card that arrived without my name on it, I had been documenting everything. Every canceled plan, every strange text, every family member who looked at me differently. And when I started asking questions, carefully, quietly, the way my daddy taught me to inspect a foundation, I found out exactly how the lie had been constructed, and by whom. I turned to Angela first. Angela, your mother told you I was having an affair with a coworker named Brett, is that correct? Angela nodded. I said, Brett is my project manager. He's 62 years old. He's been married for 34 years. His wife Linda and I are in a book club together. We read Where the Crawdads Sing last month. She brought the wine. I turned to Aunt Karen. Karen, you pulled me aside at the cookout and said you weren't judging me. Patricia told you I'd been seen at a hotel in downtown Nashville with another man. Is that correct? Karen nodded, lips tight. I said, that was a work conference. I was there with 12 other people, the hotel confirmation, the conference agenda, and the group photo of all 13 of us are in my email. I can show you the timestamp right now. I turned to Cousin Marcus. Marcus, you sent me a Facebook message telling me to leave David if I was unhappy. Patricia told you I'd confided in her that I was thinking about leaving. Is that correct? He nodded, face red. I said, I have never had a single conversation with Patricia about my marriage. Not one. She has never asked. I have never told. Check your messages. The one I sent back to you 3 months ago that you never responded to asked you what you were talking about. I still have it. One by one, around the table, I dismantled every beam of the lie Patricia had spent 6 months constructing. And I did it calmly. I did it quietly. I did it while the sweet potato casserole got cold, and the corn pudding sat untouched, and the mantel clock kept ticking like a metronome, counting out the end of Patricia's control over her family. And then I turned to Patricia. The room was so quiet by then, you could hear the ice melting in the tea glasses. 17 people watching. Patricia sitting at the head of the table where she had sat for 30 years, ruling over this family like a woman who believed her throne was permanent. And me, the daughter-in-law she had tried to erase, standing right next to her, holding proof that her throne was built on nothing but lies. I said, Patricia, I want to ask you one question in front of this family, and I want you to answer it honestly, because every relationship at this table depends on what you say next. Why did you do this? She didn't answer. Her face was frozen. Not remorseful, just frozen. The smile from earlier was gone. What was left was something harder, something older. The face of a woman who had spent decades controlling people through whispers and insinuation and had never once been asked to account for it out loud. So I answered for her. I said, you did it because David chose me, not you. He chose to build a life with a woman who wasn't you, and that was something you could not tolerate. So you decided to destroy me the way you've destroyed everyone who got too close to your son. Quietly, carefully, in ways that couldn't be traced back to you. But here's the thing about lies, Patricia. They're like termites. As long as nobody looks at the foundation, the house stands. But the minute somebody inspects, the whole thing crumbles. I set my phone down on the table. Everything is in here. The timeline, the screenshots, the messages, the way each family member was fed a slightly different version of the same lie, tailored to what you knew would hurt them most. If anyone at this table wants to see it, it's available. I'm not hiding anything. I never was. And then I picked up my corn pudding. I said, this came from my grandmother's recipe. It's the only thing on this table that belongs to my side of the family. I'm taking it with me. I walked out of Patricia's house. David followed me. And the last thing I heard as the front door closed behind us was the sound of 17 people, his entire family, sitting in silence at a Thanksgiving table where the woman at the head had just been exposed as a liar. David and I are still married. It wasn't easy. It took months of conversations. Hard ones, the kind where you sit across from someone at a kitchen table and ask them why they didn't believe you when they had every reason to. He went to therapy, we went together. He had to confront the fact that his mother had been manipulating him since he was a child, and that he had been conditioned to trust her version of reality over his own. That's not a small thing to undo. Angela called me about 3 weeks later. She apologized. I accepted it. Not because what she did was okay, but because she had been a tool in Patricia's hands, and when you're a tool, you don't always know who's swinging you. She and I aren't close anymore. I don't think we ever will be, but we're civil. That's enough. Patricia, well, the family fractured. Not all at once. The same way the lie was built, in hairline fractures. Some of David's relatives stopped speaking to her. Others defended her. Uncle Ray called David and said, "Your mother has always been like this. We just never had proof before." That word again, proof. It matters. It's the only thing that ever matters when someone is trying to rewrite your life. As for me, I learned something that Thanksgiving that I carry with me every day. You cannot make someone love you, but you can make them regret underestimating you. And the difference between those two things is the entire story of my marriage. If you made it to the end of this, thank you. What was the moment in the story that hit you the hardest? Was it the Thanksgiving table when Angela said it out loud? Was it Patricia's smile? Was it the corn pudding I carried out the front door? Drop it below. I read every single one. Subscribe to Karma Delivered. Every story on this channel is true in the ways that matter, and Karma, she always, always finds her way. I'll see you next week. Stay solid. That's enough karma for me.